It was a quiet, still night, and in the corner of the quarry, Mavis was sleeping peacefully in her shed. She was dreaming contentedly until suddenly... What was that? She stammered, her eyes wide. Outside her shed, she could hear a deep rumbling sound. It almost sounded like breathing. Before Mavis could even process what had happened, several loud bangs rang out, cutting through the still nighttime air. "Oh, help!" shrieked Mavis. It was all too much for her, and she shut her eyes tight. The next morning, Mavis told Toby what had happened. "A monster?" he chuckled. "Of all tricks, Mavis, I wouldn't fancy you for using something so obvious." Mavis went red in the face. She was fruitlessly trying to recount her night's ordeal to Toby. "It's not a trick. I've really heard something." Just then, Diesel slithered up. "I can't imagine myself, Toby," he said. "To think that Mavis of all Diesels would be scared by such a monster." "And I, for another," retorted Toby, "can't understand why Sir Topham Hatt keeps you around when all you do is cause nothing but chaos." "Just saying," fumed Diesel as he chortled away. "Oh, don't listen to him," soothed Toby. "I believe you. But really, a monster? I think you might have gotten yourself a little bit worked up. Are you sure it wasn't a dream?" It wasn't," protested Mavis. "It sounded just like a proper monster to me." "Come on now, Toby," interrupted his driver. "We must be on time." "We'll talk later," assured Toby as he puffed away. "But it was a monster," called Mavis, "and I will prove it." Soon night fell, but Mavis was still redder than ever. "Some help Toby is," she flounced, thinking it was my imagination. "I know I heard something." "Calm down, girl," soothed her driver. "No need to let it ruin your day." But her words weren't making Mavis comfortable. "But what if it does come back? What if it takes me with it?" "Well, if it makes you feel any better," said her driver, "I can stay behind a little later tonight to keep you company." Mavis wasn't different, but deep down, she was thankful for the offer. "This'll prove old Toby that I'm right," she thought to herself. Soon after her work was finished, Mavis returned to her shed. Her driver closed the shed doors to the empty quarry and grabbed her flask from Mavis's cab. "I can stay half an hour or so, and then I must get back home." Mavis was about to reply when suddenly she went pale. "Shh! I can hear it." The driver listened too, and sure enough, a deep rumbling sound filled the air. Then they heard another noise. "That's it!" squeaked Mavis. She began to quiver, but her driver wasn't scared. She quickly ran to the door and peered through it. Mavis held her breath. But then suddenly her driver began laughing. "There's your monster," she said, and she opened the doors. Mavis opened one eye. There, by the quarry entrance, stood a worn-out Lorry. Mavis was surprised by the newcomers, but even more so when they seemed friendly. "Sorry, mate," coughed the Lorry. "We're new to this quarry." "We're new to the area," explained the driver, "and we accidentally wound up here last night. The directions aren't a strong point of mine, admittedly." Sorry for the disturbances we might have caused you, coughed the lorry. Mavis's driver laughed. Don't worry, you've caused no disturbance aside from startling Mavis. Mavis felt too embarrassed to say anything at first, but before long, all parties were chatting away happily. Early the next morning, the lorry went back to its area, and the quarry was left undisturbed. But Mavis couldn't get everything that had happened out of her mind. Whenever she passed by the crossing, she would see her new friend. He still, of course, makes that dreadful spluttering sound with his engine. Because of this, Mavis and her driver would nickname him Splutter. He surprisingly loved the name, and worn it ever since. So was Mavis, until Toby puffed up. Well, 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 he chortled. It looks like you may have found your very own Leviathan. Mavis wasn't used to the old tram's jokes, but couldn't help but give an assuring wink to him.